Today we're speaking with lead singer Sean Peck, and of course, Sean, you're the lead singer for both Cage and Death Dealer. So I was going to ask you, why don't we start off with, since most people know you from Cage, how long has that band been together?
Cage's been around since '92. We've been around for years, like 21, 22 years coming up, and it's been a great ride, and things are just getting better.
And obviously, I think it's safe to assume that one of your biggest influences was probably Rob Halford.
Yeah, as a singer, definitely that was the voice that when I was going through the metal heyday and just really becoming indoctrinated into heavy metal. Man, that was the voice that I just loved, and was amazed with the tone and the things that he could do, and that's why I liked Judas Priest better than Iron Maiden, because the singing was so much superior, and Rob Halford had superpowers back then, and I just loved it.
And let me ask you, because when I listen to your music, you kind of got although you got your own thing going, definitely, you kind of got a Halford sound to what you do, and that obviously, like you're saying, you're a fan. But I was curious, did you always try to sound like him, or is that just kind of how your voice sounds?
I don't know. I get compared to Halford a lot, but I don't think I sound like Halford. That must be. It's hard to look at it from an outsider perspective. I mean, I think I use some of the techniques and the delivery style. I don't know that my tone really sounds like Halford. I try and there's a couple different techniques I use where I guess I could say that. But
yeah, I mean,
growing up and before I became a singer, I was just kind of like it was like doing air guitar, but it was singing. And so I tried to emulate the songs that I heard, and eventually got my own kind of style as I went along.
Yeah, because you definitely have your own thing going, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is like you're definitely one of these guys that like Halford, even Dickinson or Ronnie James Dio. You can hit those high notes. You've got a pretty high range.
Yeah, that's the kind of music I like. I like the screaming metal, and it's just more powerful, and just different vocal style. You can have the range is cool and everything, but luckily I think I've been blessed with my own signature tone where people hear me sing and they can instantly know that it's me. Like when you hear Ozzy's voice or you hear Sting, even like you instantly know it's them. And I think luckily I don't sound like a lot of the the Halloween clones.
Yeah.
That are all through European power metal. I got my own sound, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and now let me ask you, Sean. Now, did you always want to be a singer, or did you have people like around you telling you, hey man, you got a pretty great singing voice? Like how did you first, decide to form your first band?
Well, when I fell in love with heavy metal, I didn't want to take the time to learn how to be a guitar player. It looked like too much work. So I go, well, what? I'll just try singing, and with no previous singing experience or anything. And I was like always a class clown, making funny voices and stuff. So I was a pretty good imitator. So I started out imitating, and then like I said, gradually, once this kind of stuff gets in your blood, man, it's hard to get out.
I love that. That's a great story. You're one of these guys that, like you said, you kind of just fell into in the thing. The great thing about that is, you've been so successful at it. I mean, going back to when you first got Cage back together, when you first formed, I was curious. Could you tell us the story of how you got your first record deal?
That was funny. We did this record. Spent a lot of money on the Unveiled record with this producer guy who had all these hookups, and he had distribution. He had all this, and we had a big CD release party, and the guy kind of went off the deep end, and it was a really successful. It was probably like 700-800 people at the show. I mean, a huge venue. And then this guy just had like a meltdown and said, "I got down," and like dropped us. So we were sitting there, with a $10,000 record in our hands.
Wow.
We know no one in the business. We know no one. What do we do with this record now? We got it. And it kind of took I got on the phone and just started networking as much as I could, and then it it kind of took off on it like had a life of its own because it was in '98, I believe, when it was like a real down time for metal, and this was such an old school heavy metal album with some really good songs on it that it just like people were just dying to hear something like this, and it just the word of mouth just went like crazy on it. And one of the journalists entered us into the famous Rock Hard Magazine's like best new band competition. We didn't have any idea we were entered into it, and we get a call from this German guy going, "Hello, Sean, this is Klaus from Rock Hard. Congratulations, you have won the contest." I'm like, I thought it was my friend, like, joking around, like, who the heck is it? And we're like, what contest? Oh, the best new band out of 700 bands. You have been selected, and you get to play the Dynamo Festival with Metallica this year. We're like, oh my God. So it was literally like out of the blue, and we were the first song we Shoot to Kill on the compilation CD that went with the magazine, and that was like 100,000 issues. And so we got all kinds of, we were talking to Nuclear Blast, we were talking to a bunch of labels, and they were hitting us up, and then we opted to go with a smaller label because we thought they would give us more attention, which they really did, and that's how we got our first record deal, man. It was really funny.
I mean, that's another great story. I mean, and the fact that, here you go to put, spend all the money and put into making that first album, and then you get a deal and you get dropped, and then kind of accidentally again, somebody enters you in a contest, and it's been, as they say, you guys have been doing it ever since. So.
Yeah, and that was our first European show too. I mean, it was, you can imagine how excited you are, like you're going out. And that festival that lineup was just amazing. Everybody you could think of was there: Metallica, Manowar, Cradle of Filth, Overkill, Gamma Ray, System of a Down before they were anybody. I mean, it was just like a who's who, and we had an amazing show too. It was had to have been like 6,000 or 7,000 people that day. And, I'll never forget it because I had just got out of the hospital from a snowboarding accident where I broke my pelvis. I just had 6 pins put in my pelvis, and the week before the show, I had just gotten off the walker, like an old people's walker.
Wow.
And the doctor's like, "You're not going to go play. You're not going to Holland." I'm like, "You can wheel me out there in a wheelchair now. I'm going to Holland. I'm going to play the show." And I was able to do the whole show without any cane or anything. I was just so pumped up on heavy metal with Redmond. So we'll always remember our first European show.
Well, that's great. And so, I assume at that time that must have been, the biggest show a band had played. So I got to ask you, what was that like, playing that show? Like, when I imagine the band had done a lot of shows in clubs and stuff, and that must have been the biggest stage you played at that time.
Yeah, but at that time it was definitely the biggest stage. And just to be in Europe and the whole vibe and being around metal, and then we got such a good reaction. It was, you do all that practicing and songwriting and hard work just to have that moment on stage in front of a crowd like that. So it's why it's why I'm still in the band. Is I just love to perform.
Cage is still doing it all these years later, and I got to ask, do you find that you guys are more popular like in the European countries than you are here in the States?
We definitely sell more records out there, but, we just played the House of Blues Hollywood. We just headlined it, and we had like 600 people there, so I don't,
Wow.
It's all different spots, and it's, some places we play, and there's like 20 people, and other places it's more so, it's always weird, that we play some obscure places we never played before, and I'm always amazed if like anybody shows up sometimes. Like, does anyone even have any idea who we are? And, we're on our 7th album that we're working on right now, so we've gotten some penetration worldwide, and it's always cool to see the emails come in from like a Russia. I remember some guy bought a CD from Saudi Arabia, on the last album, and that kind of stuff always really makes it cool to see how, just worldwide, who you're reaching.
And it seems like you guys got a pretty loyal fan base. I mean, like I said, you're still doing it all these years. You're working on your, 7th album, and so I understand you guys recently made some changes in the lineup. Is that correct?
Yeah, man. I can't. I'm sure everyone always says like, "Oh, the new lineup's so great," but it really is true about this lineup. I'm so excited about it. It's kind of funny how it happened because we got offered to play the show, and Baltimore, which ended up being a giant fiasco. Like half the bands didn't play. But because of that, like the couple of the guys that ended up quitting, they quit over this show that we wanted to go play that never happened. And it was a blessing in disguise because, within a week we had replaced one, the guitar player, the drummer, and the bass player. And of course, me and Dave Garcia, the two original members, were the primary songwriters anyway. And the new lineup is just so, it's like it was destined to be that way because the new guys we got, Casey Trask, Sean Elge, and Light Magic, are just so enthusiastic about it, and everything that we do is new and fresh to them, and we're just writing great music, and they're probably the best players that we've had at those positions, and being in a band, the number one commodity as a musician is enthusiasm and attitude, and these guys got everything. They got the stage presence, which is the best it's ever been. These guys just are running around like nuts. They've got the technical skill, and then they've got the vibe, and then they're just totally nothing phases them, and they're not too big for it. And the new lineup is just, so it's re-energized. We're always energized, but this is just sent it to another level. So I can't wait to take this lineup to Europe. We just, like I said, we just played, the House of Blues in L.A. and just destroyed the place with the new kids. And Dave and I are super stoked, and it's like things are really firing up. We're getting a lot of attention right now for Cage.
And so I was curious, how did you find these new guys? Did you find them through musician ads online, or were these guys you knew from other bands?
I call, one of my buddies is a local promoter here, so he sees like all the bands playing around.
Oh, okay.
So I called him up and I said, who can I pirate? Who can I steal from some of the other bands that are good? And we got the bass player first, and then then we called up this drummer who we kind of knew who was fantastic, Sean Elge, and then he's like, hey, I got a guitar player that might be into it, and he brought him in. The guitar player, Casey, was just freaking perfect, and it was just no tryouts, nothing. The first three guys were the perfect ones. It was really easy. Like I said, within a week of those guys quitting, we already had a new lineup and a new set together. Now the old guys are like looking at our tour dates online going, oh man, I wish we wouldn't have quit. But,
and so, so how far are you guys into the recording of the new Cage album?
It's about half done recording and then probably 75% done writing. It's going to be a real trip, this album. This is a horror concept CD, kind of a King Diamond thing.
And do you have any idea what the concept's based off yet, or is that still something you're working on?
No, it's done. The story is I was going to do an album with three of the old King Diamond guys, and that fell apart. But because of that, I started writing like a horror story for that project, and that project never happened. So I was left with this. It's big. It's turned into like a mini novel. It's 45,000 words. It's this huge story, kind of H.P. Lovecraft vibe, based in 1869 London, England. And the story was so good, I go, man, I got to save this for Cage. And then I ran it by the guys, and they were all excited about it. So the book is actually going to ship with the CD in certain packages. So
that's cool. That's
another kind of unique product. We always try and find new, interesting ways to package and make stuff exciting and so that you can what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like an escape, for immersion, a full immersive experience. I might even do an audio book of it too, so people that don't want to read.
That would be a totally cool thing, I think. And so this has been an idea you've been toying with for quite some time now, huh?
Yeah, and it's really hard, man. Doing the Hell the Story thing was an amazing album, but those songs were a little easier to write hooks and have choruses where you could relate, you could get into them like instantly. This was going to be a little more tricky because kind of like the Abigail thing. You're telling a story, and the chorus has to involve what's going on in the story. It can't be a generic, fist in the air chorus. But so I'm always really nervous about how good the album's going to be. But the more that we get into it, the more confident I'm becoming, and we just landed a pretty cool guest vocalist, but he's only going to be doing voiceovers, playing one of the characters in the story. He's not even going to sing on it.
Wow.
He's a pretty big sized name, actually.
Wow. So when you guys release this and you go on tour behind it, I was curious. Do you see yourself like doing like kind of like a Queensryche type thing, like Operation Mindcrime, where this is a big part of a live show, and you're gonna have special staging and maybe do.
I don't think so. I mean, we're gonna have we have our stage, our mini maiden stage set, as I call it. We got these rubber demons, or these guardians on each side of the stage, and we have our two scrims and a big backdrop. But we're not gonna do some massive production and play the whole album in its entirety. I don't see that happening, but I am encouraged by the response to the idea of the album that I've already put out there, and everyone seems to be pretty excited about it. I've let 10 or 15 people read the story that are metal and like horror literature fans, and they're telling me that it's pretty good. So hopefully people dig it.
And let me ask you, Sean, are you the one that's totally written this story all on your own, or have you had other people help you with that?
No, this is all me. I wrote the whole thing, and it's you have to keep going over and over, and it's filling in the holes, and correcting. And I'm sure when I put it out, there's going to still be some typos. I'm sure people will find the typos, but man, I'm doing the best I can. But it's 45,000 words is no joke.
And so, what do you think's the hardest thing about doing a project like this? I mean, obviously you got the ability to write songs. You've been doing that for a while. But is it harder writing songs when you're writing like based on a one topic or a storyline, or does it make it easier?
I mean, because you can come up with any idea, and I'll write a song about Rasputin or something. But that actually happened in the Hell Destroyer thing, because I had written I Am the King and Fire and Metal, and I think one other, King Diamond, before we decided to do the Hell Destroyer concept. So I had to kind of rework I Am the King and Hell Destroyer to fit into the thing. And then the King Diamond obviously had no way to make it into the story, so we just had that as a bonus track, even though that was one of the best tracks on the whole record. So yeah, it's tricky, because not only do you have to write the songs, but they have to, when you piece them all together, you hope that they flow well on the album, because you're not writing them in order. So it's really tricky, man. And like I said, so far so good, and you got to make sure that they're going to be able to understand a little bit of at least understand the story just by listening to the songs. Because people aren't, not everyone's going to read the whole thing. And so it's just, I just like doing creative new stuff.
And do you have
doing a generic record every time.
And do you have a projected release date for this? When you hope to have it out by?
It'll be out this summer.
Oh, okay, great. And now you bring up that you had early on in your career done some shows with Manowar, and that kind of brings us to our next topic, which is your other band, Death Dealer, which features, of course, Rossabas Friedman, and of course you and some other guys, Stu Marshall,
Mike Davis from Halford.
Yeah, Mike Davis. How did you guys all first get together? I mean, that's a great lineup right there.
Basically, Stu called me up and said, "Mate, let's do a band called Death Dealer." And I go, okay. And so we started kind of like fantasy football. We just kind of go like, okay, well, let's get this guy on bass. That we started with the bass. We're like, who can we get on bass that anyone would even care about besides Steve Harris and Tom Araya from Slayer, I guess. And so, and then he had just hung out with Mike, and we're like, well, what about Mike Davis, man? He's in Halford, and Lizzie Borden, and we're like, oh, that's the perfect idea right there. So I literally just called him right on the spot. I'd never even met the guy before. I'm like, hey, do you want to be in my band? And he's like, okay. And I'm like, wow, that was easy. And then the next one we called Rhino for the drums. He was totally down for it. And then I got a hold of Ross. It literally happened within like 60 minutes of Stu and I thinking the thing up. And then Ross was totally excited about it. I'm like, wow. I called back Stu. I go, I guess we got to write an album now. We have this lineup. So we took individual photos, put them out there like the super group thing, and everyone went, oh my God, this sounds amazing. And the cool thing was about Death Dealer was that to me, the album came out, it's just as good or better than what it looked like on paper. You look at most of these supergroups or whatever these lineups
Yeah.
are, the albums never seem to deliver, man. It's just like never as good as it looks like it should be. And this, I just love that Death Dealer album, man. I think that, it got incredible reviews, a lot of Album of the Year awards and, top 10 albums of the year all over the place. And we've now since replaced Rhino with Steve Bolognese from Into Eternity, who's a freaking amazing. I mean, Rhino was a completely amazing drummer, but Steve even surpasses him. So we're almost done with the second Death Dealer album right now.
Okay, and now let me ask you. Obviously Cage has been your main project for all these years. So, when you got that initial call from Stu, did you have any reservations about doing anything else? Since again, Cage has been your main thing for all these years.
Well, Stu lives in Australia, so it's like something major has to happen for us to really get together and play. We are going on it's going to be announced next week. I can tell you, we're opening for the Metal All-Stars, 11 dates in Eastern Europe. I don't know if you've seen that tour, the Metal All-Stars.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've been reading some stuff on it, and Ross was telling me that he's involved with it as well.
Ross was playing in it, and so it's going to be an 11-date arena tour. So we got a real big break, and we're going to be opening for an arena tour. It's not just a small opening slot. So that's really going to. We've only played 4 shows together live, so this is going to be a great time and really, I'm sure catapult the band into further opportunities. So, in the meantime, we hope to have the record almost done by the time we leave for that tour, and that's in March 23rd is the first show in Bulgaria.
Wow! And so the Death Dealer album will be coming out, I'm sure, a lot sooner than the Cage album.
I don't know. They're probably going to come out close to the same time, which is really going to be complicated. We're still trying to figure that out. Both albums at this point are probably pretty close to the same level of completion, but like I said, they're both really good, and we got a lot of songs for the Death Dealer. The Cage is like with the interludes and stuff. I think it's 18 tracks. With the different interludes. The atmospheric pieces, and then I think we have 13 songs for Death Dealer, but a bunch of those will be bonus tracks. So we're in the Mark Sasso, who's in the Cage and the Death Dealer album, is doing the album cover again. He just put out I don't know if you saw that Dio tribute album cover he put out. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, that looks cool. I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, and then I'm actually going to be this. I'll give you another exclusive. This hasn't been announced yet, but I'm going to be singing with the band Warrior.
Wow, okay.
At the Keep It True this year. They're co-headlining on April 25th, so I'm really excited about playing Fighting for the Earth and some of those songs with those guys. So there's a lot happening right now, man. Jeez.
Yeah, what exactly is Fighting for the Earth? I mean, obviously, it's some kind of awareness show.
No, that's if you know, Warrior is that's their famous song, "Fighting for the Earth."
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
The first album as well.
Okay.
But yeah, if you don't know about Warrior, you need to look them up because I think they were on Universal before. And
now was that the band?
Right up the same vein as Death Dealer and Cage, and kind of underground legend band, and that's why they're co-headlining to Keep It True.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. 'Cause I've heard the name Warrior, but I think there's a couple bands named. There was one I know with, this guy, keyboard player Jimmy Waldo. He used to play with Bob Kulick.
Man, you got to know about Warrior. Lose your credibility with your listeners.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely check that out. Anything is, got you guys involved. That's got to be worth it. Now, I was curious. Being in a band like Death Dealer, that must be a lot of fun for you in the sense that, like, all these years of you doing Cage, your main partner is Dave Garcia, and a lot of songwriting falls on you. So, is it great to be in a project like this where other guys are contributing in that?
Yeah, the first album was like the easiest album I've ever done. I mean, me, Stu, all of us got together and wrote the songs, and they just came out so quick, and it was amazing. They literally, I think 2 months start to finish, we wrote the whole thing, recorded it, like done. It was just like boom. think that album is fantastic. I mean, I think every song on it's really good. So I'm real proud of it. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely, had some other people writing, but it was interesting, writing with Ross because I was never really a big Manowar fan, so I had to, learn about just what an incredible legacy he had and just how important he was to music. I mean, punk and metal, and writing with him, I wanted to make sure you didn't know. I'm pretty opinionated when it comes to songs.
Yeah.
I really fight to get my way because I think I know what a good metal song's got in it, and Ross and I didn't bump heads on anything. I was really cool for just not really knowing him, and now I him and I are great friends. So, and the same thing happened with the second record, man. It just flows, so it's really easy. And whereas Dave and I are like two brothers, we're always fighting over stuff in a good way, though, because it always comes out real good.
Once again, we're speaking with Sean Peck, and of course, Sean, you're the lead singer. We're staying for both Death Dealer and legendary band Cage. I was curious, having done Cage for so many years, have you ever had any desire to do like a Sean Peck solo album?
I've been asked to do that a lot, and I'm just like, I get everything I need from Cage, and now I got Death Dealer, and now I'm doing this Warrior thing now. So, artistically, I don't feel like I need to do a solo album because I want to do this kind of thing, and it doesn't work with my other bands. But I'm doing exactly what I want to do. So, I don't really have one. There is another album that I'm going to be working on. It's like totally top secret. It's going to be with two other singers that are really well known.
Oh, okay.
And the three of us are going to do like a super screamer record.
I got you.
I can't reveal the details, but it's definitely going to shock the metal world. So once these albums are done, I'm going to start into that, and that's going to be another kind of avenue, but it'll still be in the same genre. So unless someone throws some crazy money at me, I don't think there's going to be a Sean Peck solo album. There is, however, I have been toying around with the idea of I've got some of these songs that are kind of like Motley Crue, kind of Steel Panther, kind of fun, party metal songs.
Okay.
And I kept accumulating those, and somehow I got to get these things out. So there may be something like that comes out, because I got some songs that are so damn good. I'm like, I got to get these out somehow. But so that's what I got going.
Are these songs that you've just written over the years that maybe weren't right for Cage or whatever? Because again, I think it'd be interesting just as a fan to hear stuff like that, because I'd be like, well, that's that's a different side of Sean Peck, that we haven't heard before.
It's just, I wrote a couple of them for Death Dealer, and the guys were just laughing so hard. They're like, "Mate, it's just not, it's like a great song, but we can't do it." I'm like, all right. One's called Heavy Metal After Party.
Wow.
And, I gotta put this song out somehow. So yeah, they're just ideas that came to me and melodies and stuff, and I wrote them. And one day I might have to put together like an EP or something.
And do you think your Cage fans would be surprised to hear this stuff? I mean, I imagine it takes a different type of singing than what you do with Cage.
No, it's metal, man. It's definitely metal, but it's more of a funnier lyrics and.
Okay.
And I also have some prank phone calls that I've recorded that are hilarious too, jerky voice style. So I'm thinking about doing some of my prank phone calls with these funny party songs. That might be an interesting product.
That'd be cool. Now, I guess the last thing I want to ask you about is when you first put out the Death Dealer, first Death Dealer album. What kind of response did you get from the Cage fans? I mean, because again, it's just great, blown on metal.
They loved it. I mean, the cool thing was that because of Ross's popularity, people had no idea who Cage was, and because of the Death Dealer thing, they're like, "Well, where's the singer from?" And then they discovered Cage, and they're like, "Oh my God!" Even Mike Davis, our bass player, had never even heard of Cage, and then I go, "Well, you might like this song. It's called Hell Destroyer." And it was like, "Oh my God!" I mean, it's just loving it. So we got a lot of additional cross promotion and attention just from me being in a band with a bunch of guys that were way more famous than I was.
And Death Dealer, it kind of is. But how do you feel when people call it like you're saying an all super group or an all-star band?
with it because the album's good. And it's not like, like I said, it's, and a lot of the reviews said that too. It's like, okay, here's all these pieces. This should be a great album, but it's probably not going to be a great album. And I'm like, oh my God, it's freaking amazing. So I'm just proud of the fact that, we put this lineup together. It looks like kind of a super group, except, myself and Stu are the two guys that weren't really known very well. And then the songs were so ripping. I'm so excited. Ross is just, this is like Ross's number one band, and he's such a legend. To have him so excited about it is really makes the rest of us motivated.
And like, you guys are just, getting ready to release your second album, but I was curious, does the fact that everybody lives so far apart, different parts of the world, make it hard for you guys to tour? I mean, is that why you guys do a lot of these like festival type shows, or could you see your guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, we got together, we did the 4 shows down here in Southern California and Mexico, and now we're doing this tour. So yeah, it's, you gotta, the cool thing is that now that Steve Bolognese, he lives in LA, so me, Mike, and Steve are kind of located in Southern California. We have Ross in New York and then Stu in Australia. So the three of us are actually going to be rehearsing for this tour next week. And then we bring the guitar players in. So having them in Southern California makes it a little easier. But yeah, it's got to be a serious tour or something for Stu to fly out and have something going on. But we're getting a lot of attention from that. Cage has got a tour coming up in July in Europe. We're playing 2 festivals, so I'm really excited, man. I just want to perform and, rock the world. Once heavy metal gets in your blood, dude, it's a disease that won't go away. And especially when you're the singer and you're just up there performing, it's just like gut-wrenching, wailing, and then you look at the look of people's faces when you hit those notes, and they just go, oh my God, it's so gratifying. And as you know, most the heavy metal people in the community are just the coolest people on the earth. I mean, just to hang out with and talk to. And so that just makes the experience that much better. I was going to ask you, like, when you guys do like any headlining shows, do you plan just sticking to like the Death Dealer material, or do you plan on like maybe throwing in a Cage song or a Manowar song or something like that? No, they're not going to do the Cage song, but we have been ending the set with Hail and Kill, and that goes over fantastic. So, like I said, I was never a really big Manowar fan, but that song is a great song, and the crowd usually goes nuts when we play it.
And so, do you guys have any plans to shoot any videos for any of the songs, with either Cage or Death Dealer?
Man, I really want to do a Cage video because of the horror story part of it. It's just perfect. And then Death Dealer, we almost shot a video. We pulled the plug on it at the last minute, but we were going to do a music video for the last album. So, I don't know, man. It's so, it takes a lot of money to do a music video. And,
yeah.
To do a good one. I mean, we could do a half-ass one, but we set the bar so high on the quality of everything we done. We only want to do a music video if it's like at a really high level, and it's always weighing like, what do you really get out of it? But I still have not done a music video, so before they bury me in the grave, I got to get at least one music video.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. I know we're going to get a lot of incredible footage from this tour, playing these arenas. So it's likely we'll probably take some of that footage and make something out of it.
And I got to ask you, compared to the story you were telling me earlier about how Cage got its first record deal, when you guys first got Death Dealer together, what was the process as far as getting a record deal for that?
We got a lot of offers, but just the music business is so difficult right now. So basically, we signed with a small label that had a really good distribution deal, and that allowed with these new fans we got to really. It was the best move for us. I'll just put it that way. So I don't know if that's going to be the same thing for this album or what, but the album did really good. We licensed it in Japan to Rubicon. The album did really good in Japan, and so I don't know. We'll see, man. It's luckily we got heavy metal fans that are willing to put down their cold hard cash for these pre-order packages. We put an incredible pre-order package out that was really, really successful, and the fans really liked it. It was a really good value, and
And as far as the Death Dealer album, is the recording for that completely finished? You guys still working on it? Do you have a projected release date for that?
No, we have 9 of the 13 songs done, so we've just got like 4 more to do, and sometime this summer, it's just a matter if we get it done before we go on this tour or not, so it's kind of where we're at with that.
And it seems like, as far as Death Dealer goes, you guys got a lot of, strong people behind you, even, as far as right down to the publicist. I mean, just my dealings with your publicist, he's a real professional type of guy, and, he helped me get all these interviews set up, and, it seems like you guys, for just being a band that just has 2 albums, you got a lot of strong people behind you.
Yeah, Death Dealer is just one album, so yeah. I mean, we got a lot of people believe in it, and then you heard the music. The cool thing was when we released the press release that we were a band, and then we put 3 30-second sound samples. It crashed the website. We had 17,000 logins in the first hour. So we're like, oh my god, man! So that was exciting to see that right out of the gate.
Yeah, and I got to ask you, Sean, when you look back on the early days, like of Cage, and like even how you guys are, conducting your business as far as promoting Death Dealer, what's the internet been like for you as far as like as a way to promote your band and everything?
Well, I would say like I wouldn't even be on Facebook if I wasn't in a band. So, but Facebook's great because it's allowed me to meet all kinds of people like all over the place. I did a song with a guy in Syria who I was just talking with today on Facebook. It's like, my store almost got bombed where I work yesterday. But I mean, and we put together a really killer track. That's a funny story in itself. But yeah, the social media is just great because being an artist, you get instant reaction, from your creation. I always compare like people that like painters, like they hang their painting on a wall and people stare at it and go, that's really nice. But music, you get people like typing like that's freaking amazing, and and so with the social media, for your music and any news you put out, or a photo even, it's like instant gratification, and it just keeps you motivated to know that people give a shit and think that it's that it's really rocking, and I just I come at it from a metal fan. When I got into metal, I wanted to every word on the frickin' on the LP. I wanted to fight my way to the front of the stage, and that's still how I feel, and I can totally relate to some 16-year-old kid in Belarus telling me like, your album is so amazing, I can relate to that feeling because I was there too.
And let me ask you, Sean, we were talking earlier about legendary singer Ronnie James Dio. I was curious if you ever had the opportunity to meet him, and if so, what was that like?
Well, we opened for him I think 3 times as Cage.
Okay. And
I got a picture, I have a photo with him, and it was the first show was Cage, Dio, and Iron Maiden. How's that for a line?
Wow, that's great. And I was curious, you were talking earlier about the tribute album. Are you going to have a track on that? Or are you taking any part in that?
No. That's Metallica and Halford and
Anthrax and stuff.
It would take a little band like Cage, but
you never know.
I could sing the shit out of a Dio song. I'll tell you that.
and as far as when Death Dealer does the live dates coming up, I was curious since you guys all live in different parts of the world, do you kind of just meet up at the where first stop in the tour, or how does that work?
Well, rehearsal. I think we're going to get one rehearsal as a band before we play the arena. So, you just being a professional, man, you just gotta go in and be ready and know your stuff, and everybody does. Everyone's got their homework done. You're just like, boom, and I know the lyrics. I know how they go, and the 3, like I said, me, Steve, Bolognese, and Mike Davis are going to be jamming the set a few times, but we'll be ready, man.
And I think one guy that's definitely going to be ready for those shows is I was talking to Ross just a couple nights ago, doing an interview with him, and he was telling me that back in New York where he lives, it's been an awful snowstorm. So I think he's ready to get out of that weather, maybe into some warmer weather.
Yeah, it's 85 degrees here in San Diego today, so that's his problem.
Yeah.
But Ross is, just being on stage with Ross, Stu, and frickin' Mike Davis, it's awesome. I mean, you just look, these guys are just thrashing. They're so good. I mean, it's kind of, it finally kind of hit me that, like, I'm on stage with Ross the Boss. Before, I didn't quite understand, like I said, how significant it was, but it's great, man. He's so enthusiastic about it. He talks so much stuff about my singing. I'm like, dude, you got to tone it down. He keeps saying, "Oh, what an insane singer!" I'm like, go on, man. You're putting too much pressure on me.
I mean, people forget, but aside from Manowar, he also goes all the way back, in the New York. He was in the punk band, the Dictators with Mark Mendoza from Twisted Sister, and I guess they still from time to time get together. He's telling me and do some shows.
Yeah, I mean the Dictators, they just did a tour, a bunch of sold out shows in Spain, and I just saw some magazine. I think what's the name of the magazine? This had them as the #1 American punk album of all time.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me. Anyway, Sean, I can't thank you enough for taking time to do this. I really appreciate this. I gotta say, you gave a really great interview. That's why we talked so long. But I can't wait.
I am hilarious. Of course, I gave a great interview. I mean, people love talking to me, and there's nothing I like better than talking about myself.
Well, that's great. And as Benjamin probably told you, this is going to go in our magazine for. It's going to be in our March issue, probably first couple of weeks of March. I'll let him know when it goes up, and I did record the interview, so we're also going to put the audio up as well. And if you'd like a copy of the audio, I could send it to him, and he can forward it to you.
Yeah, do that, and thanks for having me. And make sure you put deathdealer.co and cageheavymetal.com on there so people know how to get a hold of us.
We'll do that, my good friend, and good luck with the Metal All Stars tour and that. And when the new Death Dealer album hits, we'll be checking it out. So thanks again, my good friend, and we'll be talking to you down the line.
All right, good job. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye.